Greetings and welcome to the Buffalo Review TV. I'm Tiffany Channer.
And I'm Kyle Fallon. On today's show, the Buffalo Bills lose yet another key piece of their offensive line. Fashion students at Buffalo State compete for a free photo shoot, and cabaret premieres tonight at the Warren Enters Theater. All this and more coming up on the Buffalo Review TV.
Now, from the campus of SUNY Buffalo State, news and information for Buffalo and the surrounding communities. It's the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media.
Dean Kevin Miller of the Graduate School was presented with the 2018 Acres Eagle Award for Special Education in March. Miller, a Western New York native and Buffalo State alum, earned his master's degree in exceptional education from Buffalo State before attending West Virginia University to complete his doctoral degree in special education. Acres was founded in 1981 and is designed to enhance services to children with adults with exceptional needs. Living in rural communities, Miller hopes to continue to advocate and help the special education system grow. He will complete his position in the Acres board this year and continue to provide his guidance in other organizations.
Student organizations across campus are looking for new members and leadership heading into the next school year. Elections will continue through the end of the month to replace the existing members who plan to graduate this spring. Joining a student organization on campus gives students the opportunity to be active on campus and make many friends along the way. The majority of organizations are funded through the United Students Government and Student Life. Go out there and find your passion.
The renowned musical Cabaret premieres tonight at Buffalo State College. The story about a struggling romance set in Germany during the Nazis' rise to power originally debuted in 1966 and has been revived numerous times throughout the years, directed by Buffalo State professor Jennifer Toohey. The show stars Shane Jones and MC Julian Melani as Clifford Bradshaw and Lily Jones as Sally Bowles. Located in Upton Hall at the Warren Enters Theater, showtimes are 8 p.m. Thursday through Saturday with a 2 p.m. matinee on Saturdays. This production runs until April 28th. Tickets can be purchased online at Rockwell Hall or at the Student Union box office.
Hip-hop artist P&D Rock is officially set to perform May 11th at this year's Spring Fest. Every year, Buffalo State ends the spring semester with an annual concert for the students called Spring Fest. The United Students Government sets a budget for performers and gives students the opportunity to complete a survey to find artists they would like to see. In the past, Buffalo State has hosted artists like Waka Flocka, A Bookie, K Camp, Future, Bryson Tiller, and more. Other artists have been rumored to perform this year, but they have yet to confirm. This event is open to everyone in the Buffalo community, and the concert will take place in the Houston Gym.
Things are about to get sassy in the social hall this Saturday as the 11th annual fashion show runway kicks off. Buffalo State students will be showcasing their designs, and the winner will receive an award as well as a free photo shoot. Now we go to the Buffalo Review TV reporter, Talisha Hernandez, who was able to get a sneak peek at the show's preview. Talisha?
Thanks, Kyle. This year, the fashion department is hosting their 11th runway show taking place this upcoming Saturday, April 21st at 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. in the social hall. Our tickets are now for sale, $10 for students, $25 for general admission, and $100 for VIP. I was able to meet with two of the designers that gave me some inside comments on the upcoming show. The fashion department at Buffalo State College has hosted many fashion shows for the students who are pursuing a career in designing or are aspiring models. The department provides a platform that allows students to bring their visions to life and more opportunities to advance in the fashion world. Each year, the show consists of variations of different themes, and the winning designer gets a professional photo shoot for their collection. We met with two of the designers for the upcoming show and got their thoughts on their experience.
I'm really inspired by people, for example. Sometimes I just think of an idea on the spot and I try to manipulate it any way I can, and I just go from there. But my inspirations are very minimal for the most part. I do think that I have a taste for, again, I mentioned this earlier, like putting my pieces together, whether they look like you can wear it in the street or they look like you can wear it at a certain event. So I do think I have an advantage in my mind to just stylistically put and design things together, as well as like the colors, because I'm really, really big on colors. So.
Well, I think this show is very grand. I think that it opens up a lot of doors and adds to a lot of visibility. Last year, you know, the gym was full of thousands of people, and even more people that heard about everything that happened. So I think when it comes to college shows that are put on by fashion departments like ours, it's a really, really good platform for design students. Yeah, it would be a huge honor, just knowing and having spent time, a lot of time with all of the students that are participating in this year's show. So to me, to be honest, I don't know. I think it would be a win for everybody, you know, for no matter who wins, you know. So I think that it's just one of those things.
If you would like to support their work and see the winner of this year's runway show, come by and support them April 21st in the Social Hall. This is Talisha Hernandez from the Buffalo Review.
John Krasinski made his directing debut with his new film, A Quiet Place. Krasinski's breakthrough producing the thriller exceeds expectations, landing one of the top opening weekends for a horror release, making over $50 million at the box office during the first weekend. Krasinski, along with his wife Emily Blunt, star in the movie about a family and future dispute polluted by violent creatures with acute hearing. The film is a stark contrast to Krasinski's previous role as Jim in The Office.
Bills fans are left scratching their heads after some recent tweets from offensive guard Richie Incognito. Incognito took to Twitter to announce his retirement due to health reasons earlier this month, but that was just the beginning. It was reported that the Pro Bowler was unhappy with the pay cut he took this offseason. And when Bills running back LaShawn McCoy offered to pay him the difference, Incognito agreed and played off the retirement tweet as a ruse. This past Saturday, Incognito requested the Bills to release him from his contract via Twitter. The Bills have not made a public statement regarding the situation, and Incognito is currently placed on the reserve/retired list and was not present for their beginning of voluntary off-season workouts Monday. Number of Erie County residents who need to renew their driver's license is expected to reach peak season this year and continue for the next several years. It's troubling news, as anyone who has ever been to the auto bureaus knows already. Hours of waiting usually come standard. To combat the issue, Erie County Clerk Michael P. Kearns intends to hire 11 full-time employees ahead of peak renewal season. These hirings look to reduce wait time and keep the Amherst Auto Bureau location open on Saturdays starting in May or June.
Spring cleaning has officially sprung on Grant Street, where Councilman David Riviera and Assemblyman Sean Ryan hosted the first annual neighborhood cleanup. This past Saturday, reporter Ryan Richards with more on the story.
Thanks, Tiffany. Grant Street has been the topic of discussion when Buffalo looks at cleaning up their streets on the west side. In response, Councilman David Rivera and Assemblyman Sean Ryan decided to get together and do something about it.
But it only works with volunteers like you.
This past Saturday, Assemblyman Sean Ryan and Rivera held a street cleanup starting from Assemblyman Ryan's office on Grant Street. Volunteers from different professions and students from Buffalo State came together as one to support the project. Each volunteer, once checked in, was given either a shovel or a rake, along with some coffee, as they were greeted by Councilman Rivera.
It has a great deal of positive impact on the people that walk up and down the street, that do business, that reside in the neighborhood. When they see 30, 40 people walking through the neighborhood cleaning up, that inspires them, and perhaps they'll do a little work themselves.
This Grant Street cleanup is not the first to occur, but according to Assemblyman Ryan, it desperately needed to happen.
Well, we hear from the business owners. We meet regularly, and one of the larger problems they discussed with us was there's a lot of trash on Grant Street, and it's been accumulating. So this year we prioritized doing a spring cleanup, and we're going to do another cleanup during the summertime. Part of what we're trying to do is bring the streets right off of Grant Street and Grant Street together, and we want to hear from people about what can we do to help make Grant Street a better place to shop, a better place to walk around, and a better place to gather.
Councilman Rivera and Assemblyman Ryan expect an even bigger turnout this summer as they try to have another cleanup. This is Ryan Richards with the Buffalo Review TV.
Food enthusiasts' dreams have come true as Food Truck Tuesday returns to Larkin Square. The event, which runs every Tuesday until October, features over 40 different food trucks and a live band each week. Some of the vendors this year includes Fat Bob's Barbecue, the Lloyd Taco Truck, Sassy Cakes, and a Bits Custard.
Chief is a 14-month-old Belgian Malinois named in honor of the late Chief Craig Harmon, who served the Niagara County Drug Task Force until his death in 2004. Four-legged friend of justice will be utilized during patrol and narcotics detection. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we sit down with Fred Floss to discuss the topic of equal pay for women.
And a conversation about the Common Core curriculum and standardized testing. Stay tuned to the Buffalo Review.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.
Hello, and welcome back to the Buffalo Review TV. I'm Tiffany Channer. Today we'll be discussing equal pay. Equal pay hasn't been a big topic of discussion, with women's equal pay occurring recently. We have Professor Fred Floss from the Economics Department here at Buffalo State College with us today. Hello, Professor Fred Floss. How are you?
Good afternoon.
So happy to be having you here with us today.
Thank you.
So for my first question will be, how do you feel about the legislator Democrat caucus supporting a state ban on the wage history discrimination?
I think it's another step in making sure that employers don't discriminate. And the obvious reason is, if I know that you were only making minimum wage, and let's say you were a woman who was a waitress and you might even be making less than minimum wage, I'm more likely to give you a lower salary than somebody who's coming in the door who maybe had a different job and making $20 an hour. And that's unfair. We should be treating everybody equally, and that's one of the ways that gender discrimination continues in a lot of jobs.
Okay. And do you agree with the ban on the wage history of discrimination?
I do agree with it. I think that it's not really appropriate to use. I think it's going to be very hard to enforce, because if you know where somebody's worked in the past, if you talk to them about where they're from, you're probably going to still have a pretty good idea of what wages they were making. So this is a step in the right direction, but we really still have to do a lot more.
According to release form from the caucus, women in New York make 89 cents for every dollar made by a man. This wage gap increased for minority groups, with African American women making 64 cents and Latinas making 54 cents. With the economy, why do women make less than men if they are both in the same job field?
Well, the numbers that you're giving are not for people in the same job field. They're for all women. So we might see teachers, both men and women, making the same amount. But the real question is, why is it that a teacher with a master's degree, where it's primarily a women's field, not make the same as, for example, a lawyer, which is predominantly a male field? So why do lawyers make so much more than teachers? Is that really where society wants to be? And that's where the discrimination occurs. We've been working since 1963 with the Equal Pay Act to make sure people who are doing the exact same job get the same pay. But that hasn't really impacted discrimination, because people are funneled into different jobs for all sorts of reasons, and women tend to end up in jobs that pay less.
Okay. And what is wage inequality?
Well, wage inequality is for someone who has similar skills and are doing similar types of work, but maybe not in the same field, getting paid differently. So it might be a nurse and an engineer. Why are nurses paid so much lower than engineers are being paid? One primarily a female area, the other predominantly a male area. Society has to come to grips with this, and we have to talk about why people are getting paid different amounts, and it may need more legislation.
How can minority women make equal pay as well?
Well, there are a number of things that I think are already happening. So women in general, but minority women in particular, need to not be afraid to go into fields like engineering, law, and other fields and break that glass ceiling that we talk about. They need to go into politics and they need to be able to start running their own businesses. And when that happens, we'll slowly make progress. The problem is that it's really taken us a long time to make any progress at all.
What does equal pay mean to you?
Well, I think the reality is that from society's standpoint, many jobs that aren't paid very well, for example, social service jobs that take care of children who have disabilities, they should be paid a lot more. That should be a job that society cares about. If we look in Europe, a lot of these jobs are much higher paid because society as a whole values those kinds of jobs. The other thing that we see is there aren't child care for all here in the United States. So that if a mother of children has to stay home, they're going to get worse jobs. And we haven't addressed that problem either, where again, if we look at some countries, what we see is that daycare is affordable and it allows women who primarily take care of children to go to work and know that their children are going to be safe.
And how can society improve these ways on paying everyone equally and not discriminating based off of sex or race?
Well, we've started to talk about it. Obviously, childcare is one of those issues. Being able to take care of your elderly parents, for example. A Family Leave Act that was passed is another way of doing it. But it's also about society taxing individuals correctly so tax dollars can go into social services to pay living wages and good wages to individuals who are doing very important social work, but we're trying to do it on the cheap here in the United States, and maybe we shouldn't. And that's going to be a big improvement if we could get it to making sure that women are paid correctly.
Yeah. And is an employer required to pay all employees with the same wage?
No, they're not. The law doesn't say that. The law says that individuals with the same skills in the same positions should be paid the same. But seniority means that individuals who have more work experience will be paid more. And if you're a mother who's been out of the workforce for a few years, you're not going to have the same seniority as a man who worked all the way through. So a man would end up getting higher pay than a woman even for the same job because they have more seniority. And you're going to see this wage gap happen. And that's only because of cultural reasons, not because the woman isn't as good or better than the man who has more seniority.
And statistics show New York State is closing the gap more compared to other states. How is this happening?
Well, I think a couple of things are happening. Some of them good, some of them not so good. The first thing is that there is an effort in New York to try to close the gap. And the legislature and county legislatures are actually working on trying to raise wages. Governor Cuomo in the last few years has pushed to raise the minimum wage. All of these things are helping us close the gap. On the downside, though, we're not, particularly in upstate, a growing economy. So people are leaving New York State, which means our wages are being suppressed. And when that happens, the gap between men and women doesn't grow as fast as it's growing in other places. So some of this is not because we're doing good things, but because people are leaving the area. And then the last thing that's very, very important in New York is that New York has one of the most unequal income levels because a lot of people don't make their money through wages, particularly down in Wall Street and other places. So the wealth in New York State, We have a lot of very, very wealthy people and a very lot of poor people, and not as many people in the middle. And that's a tremendous problem for New York State that we're still trying to come to grips with.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Fred Floss, for having us here today. We appreciate it. This is Tiffany Channer signing out.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Buffalo Review TV. My name's Kyle Fallon. Today we will be discussing a hot topic that has been trying to be implemented properly for a long time, Common Core. Joining me is Buffalo State professor Diane McCarthy, who has an education degree in elementary education and mathematics and minor in early childhood. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
I know you had a busy schedule and it was a little tough getting you out here,
Yes.
but I'm glad we could get you in here. So,
Great.
starting off, because I know that even when I came up in like high school, it was starting. They were trying to implement a lot of it before I got out of high school and all that. And a lot of the teachers would go back and forth between if they liked it or not. Is it difficult for teachers to adjust to the Common Core style?
Well, I think it's a change, and anytime there's a change, it takes time. So I think if you ask teachers now, they're a lot more positive about the Common Core than they would have been a few years ago when they were just starting to use it.
Yeah. And so for the students, do you think it would be difficult for them as well adjusting to that style, or is it more so the same for them?
Well, I think for students, first of all, younger people, a little more adaptable. So they do better with the change maybe than the teachers would. But I think the Common Core, yes, there's a change, but a lot of what we expect students to be able to do and what we expect them to know at the elementary level in particular, that hasn't changed. You know, the Common Core is just maybe like a repackaging of it, a restatement of it. Probably what teachers had were changes in instructional strategies, and then they're using new strategies that are more research-based, that are supposed to be more effective in order to meet the expectations of the Common Core.
So do you think that the Common Core, and I know it's more about like the research and everything, but would it limit the way that teachers are like creativity in their job? Would it limit them in any of that aspect, do you think?
I think some teachers feel that way, that they have been limited. The expectations are high, and so maybe there's a little less flexibility with their time, so they're not able to do some things that they liked to do that were a little more creative. But I also think that there are some very, very intelligent and creative teachers who are finding ways to do things with the Common Core and improving student learning and achievement.
Yeah, it's kind of like the students would be adaptable. You want the teachers to be a little adaptable as
Yes.
well. One of the things in Common Core about the content is that it promotes cross-curricular learning. Do you think this is a good, positive thing?
Oh, cross-curricular learning is very positive. It's kind of the idea that you can integrate content areas. I was just working with a student on some research that she's doing about using children's literature to teach mathematics. And so, you know, putting those two things together helps the child that's strong in ELA and helps the child that's strong in math, and it also helps them in their weak areas. So putting things together, you know, cross-curricular is very positive.
Yeah, I can say like when you don't realize you're learning, a lot of people think that's really good because like you're just taking it in without realizing it, and comes time you're prepared to do it.
Yes.
So do you think that Common Core can create opportunities for students to still enjoy the learning process rather than simply see what they are doing at school as a series of hoops to jump through and like credits to obtain? Because I know it's a lot of credit-based.
Well, I think that's probably more so true at the high school level. You know, you have to check all the boxes before you can graduate. So maybe Common Core there is a little more, I don't know, I don't want to say it impedes them because we've had Regents exams and they've always had expectations and things they had to do. Hopefully it's not hoop jumping.
Yeah.
So.
So would you say that Common Core nowadays prepares students better than it used to for college and possibly career success?
I would hope that that we're preparing students better for their future endeavors, whether it's college or career or workplace. The Common Core has a lot of critical thinking in it. problem solving, math skills, ELA skills, communication. So those things are needed in college and career.
So another option through Common Core is that they do a lot of pre-testing in order to figure out where the students are at. Do you think this is a benefit to Common Core?
Yes, very much. Formative assessment or pre-tests, or however you want to call it, has been shown to be a great tool for improving student achievement. It allows the teacher to see what students know and what students don't know, and then to tailor instruction appropriately.
So would you think that if a teacher finds that something's kind of missing out of Common Core, do you think that they're okay in jumping at that they want them to know that and teaching it to them without kind of looking at Common Core and saying, oh, it's not in here, or it's more important to them as a teacher? Is it okay for them to go ahead and teach that, or should they always follow that strict curricular?
Okay, so I'm guessing what you're asking is if I want to teach something that's not in Common Core, can I do that?
Yeah.
I would say yes, you can, but certainly within parameters of the expectations of your school district. Time is always a concern in teaching. Do we have enough time? So I think a lot of teachers feel like they have to focus first on Common Core before adding in some of the extras.
So with it being a very strict curricular, a lot of people have been thinking about it, and I think parents have been asking about it too, is they don't know if it's too vague or if it's too difficult rigor for the students to handle. What would you believe do you think it's too vague, or if it's just too hard for the students?
Wow, it's kind of a difficult question. What I would say to parents is that if they have concerns about the level of rigor, that they should go and read the Common Core standards. I certainly think that helps parents get an understanding of what's happening in the school, what the expectations are. And I think no one would argue for less rigor. Our world is complex, and we're preparing children, particularly young children in the elementary grades, for jobs and situations we can't even imagine.
Yeah, so kind of some specifics, because I know I'm trying to get on both sides, because I've heard so much back and forth about if it's good, if it's bad, if it's in the middle, but do you think there's any specific ways that it would limit their job? Like
limit a child's possibilities, or limit a teacher?
We could do both. How would it limit a teacher?
Well, I think that for a teacher that there's a lot to do in the Common Core. And so they may feel as though they are limited because they have to cover those topics and that content area first. But that's what we would want. We would want them to get to the materials and the things that are in the Common Core, the expectations in the Common Core. But it is Common Core, meaning it's the basics. So if they want to implement other things, they certainly could. I don't think it's limiting that way. And for students, I would say giving them solid foundations in math skills and reading and writing and communication skills is important. So it's not limiting, it's opening doors.
Yeah, and a lot of people have saw it as a very good thing, and the only problem that I think a lot of people have had is that the implementation has been a problem. Do you think that it's going to happen soon, where it's implemented really well, or do you think it's a little far off in the future?
Well, I think we've gotten much better, and I think one of the struggles with implementation, anytime it's something new, it's a lot to learn, and it's a lot to do in the beginning, and then as you get used to it and familiar, and your understanding is greater, then it's easier to implement. So I would hope right now that we're doing pretty well with the Common Core. I guess we'll see when we have test results.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of been similar to where, I think Regents exams, people were a little up and out about those when they first implemented them, and I think it's going to be the same thing with that. So that's going to be all the time we have today. I'd like to thank Diane again for joining me. I'm Kyle Fallon. Thank you for joining us.
Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.